So here we are. We're a few hours removed from the beginning of the shooting in San Bernardino, where 14 were killed and 14 or more injured. I think they're saying 17 now injured. And already, minutes after the shooting started, we already have people calling for gun control. And the peculiar thing about this is that it happens in California, where you can't possibly squeeze any more gun control into that place without the outright ban of firearms in that state. A state that has taken every gun control idea and made it law. Has taken everything Bloomberg and CSGV and Moms Demand Action has said, and they've made it law. And not only that, they found more ingenious and devious ways to disenfranchise people in that state of right. But there's this guy, Mark Carman. I think his name's Mark. I know his last name's Carman. But he did some video a few months back about how gun owners are shitheels and we're not doing enough to curb gun violence and stop gun violence. Well, he released another video. Obviously he's a media whore, so he had to release it within a few hours after the shooting. But suspects aren't even in custody. We don't know why this even happened yet. And he had to release a video. And I'm just going to go through his video a little bit and see, listen to what he says and basically pick it apart.
I have a lot of advisors who are at this very
that's great. You have advisors. I don't need advisors to tell me how to make a statement or what statement I need to make.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I don't need any help right now to make a statement.
Oh, that's good.
Here's where I am with this. I've tried reason.
No, you haven't tried reason. You've made general platitudes and appeals to emotion, which is actually the opposite of reason. But continue, please.
Mad at me, and people that do own guns getting mad at me, and everybody being mad at me. And there's a lot of you that I really do appreciate your support. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to say it like it is. It's every week that somebody is going in and killing people. And before one person says it, they're not going in there killing them with a damn hammer. They're not going in there chopping them up with a chainsaw. They're going in there with guns and shooting people. That's what's happening. Until gun owners...
Okay, so he started the sentence.
Like me and people like you, gun owners, until the National Rifle Association,
until we what?
American institution that served this country well for decades, that taught me how to fire and handle a gun. When the oath keepers that raised their right hand, just like I did, and swore an oath to support, protect, and defend the Constitution and the country, the people of the country that Constitution
until
serves.
We what?
And I've never retracted my oath either.
He's never retracted his oath, but he keeps saying, until the NRA, until gun owners, until everyone what? Where's the action that we're supposed to take in this? It's just a general platitude and appeal to emotion.
But when the oath keepers drop all this nonsense about don't want their rights,
we don't want people to take our guns and this nonsense about rights.
I'm telling you guys.
Yeah, it's nonsense. The same right that gives you the right to sit on here and blabber on in bullshit platitudes.
Every time something like this happens and you defend it, you're giving people a reason to want to make civilian handguns illegal.
We don't have to give them a reason to want to make civilian handguns illegal. States like California already want to make civilian handguns illegal. As a matter of fact, they've gone through the process of making certain types and models and makers of guns. They've already made them illegal. We don't have to do anything. We just keep doing what we're doing. Obeying the law, following the law as law-abiding gun owners, and minding our business. And they keep creating laws to make it harder for us to do that. And he still hasn't mentioned what he wants us to do. He hasn't said the action. He just said, until gun owners, until the NRA, until we what? What do you want?
I'm calling on members of the National Rifle Association. I'm calling on members of every
Okay, a call to
gun-owning
action.
organization.
Here we go.
If
He's
you
going to put it
have
out.
the guts, if you have the resolve to stand up
Okay,
and
what do we need
your
to do?
congressman, call your senator,
Call our congressman.
call the leaders of your
Okay,
organization
call them.
and say, we have got to do something.
We've got to do something. Something. We've got to do something. What is that something? Maybe he'll clear it up. We've got to do something. So an appeal to emotion for a knee-jerk reaction, that always ends up well.
People, 9/11 happened, and they drove airplanes through towers and through government buildings, and they tore up a lot of stuff and killed a lot of people.
That's a non sequitur. What does this have to do with 9/11?
That every year we kill more than 10 times the amount of people through gun violence in this country. And we went to war and spent trillions of dollars and toppled a whole government and everything supposedly because of 9/11.
Well, hold on. No, we don't kill 10 times more people. We have about 30,000 deaths a year. About 16 to 20,000 of those every year can be attributed to suicide by firearm. And then another 10 to 15,000, depending on the year, on average, are murders from gun violence. Again, 9/11, a non sequitur for an appeal to emotion. And this is appealing to a very specific liberal base that, believes, like me, that Iraq was an unjustified war and we didn't need to do it. But, he's going to make that appeal to curry favor with the people that he's talking to, the anti-rights, anti-gun people.
I mean, for God's sake, what is it going to take? Now, this is a rant, this is a tirade, and I'm expecting everybody that's a gun owner, that's a member of one of these organizations, to just blast the living hell out of me.
Yes, I'm going to blast the living hell out of you, and not because you're anti-gun, because you're illogical and you're making useless appeals to emotion, which has no place in appeals to emotion to tell people to do something, anything, for a knee-jerk reaction is not the way you govern and manage a society and make rules and laws. It's the worst way to do it.
If you don't do something about it.
So if we don't do something about it, anything, so I keep my guns locked up in a cabinet. So I'm doing something about it, so I'm not to blame. I've done something. And then he makes a threat. The people in the government are going to do something about it. What more can they do in California? The people in the government of California have already voted, basically ceded the right to self-defense. The people have ceded the right of self-defense to the state. The state has failed over and over to protect the people. And then when the state overreaches, a police officer goes out and abuses authority, or like Leland Yee, the state senator from California that was caught running guns, illegal guns, into California. And when people overreach and abuse their authority and they have no recourse, they wonder why the government can just get away with that. And it's a threat too. It's like it's a dumb, meaningless threat. The people and the government will do what? If we don't do what? You still haven't said it. You haven't made any specific
your government
recommendations for how to stop this.
We are not going to stand for it anymore. Gun owners, it's time.
That's great. Gun owners, it's time. It's time for what? Still no specifics, no specificity, no specific recommendations on what us gun owners should be doing, since we all somehow share collective blame for the thing that just happened, which is a tragedy. And that's the other thing. There's somehow this idea that because we're all gun owners, we all share collective responsibility for every bad thing that happens, which is the exact same as saying every Muslim shares collective blame every time there's a Islamic terrorist attack, which is a dumb thing to say. And my final thoughts on this are, first of all, what happened in San Bernardino is a horrible tragedy. And it sucks, and it sucks every time this happens. Every time this happens, it sucks. And I feel bad about it. And I question my stance on gun rights. Do I have the right stance? Is it a moral stance? Is it a morally justified stance? And I keep coming back to, yeah, it is. It is. And it sucks that this stuff happens. And it does because we have crazy people and we have criminal people. And you have those in every society, in every place on earth. So short of establishing an office of pre-crime or if it came to it and we could create a magical utopia where there were no criminals, there were no bad people, and there were no guns, and they could guarantee me 100% that all the bad people were gone and all the bad people had no guns, I would give them up. Since I mostly keep my guns for self-defense and home defense. They're fun toys. They're fun tools to have. But if it came to that, and we lived in utopia, but we don't, and we never will. So I never will give up my guns. I never will. That's the other, he's threatening this. His threat at the end is, the people in the government will. The people in the government will do what? They will do what? Do you really think a civil war would be less bloody? Are they going to outlaw guns altogether and have a civil war, go door to door and try to take all the guns? I still don't understand what he's telling you to do something. Here's an appeal to emotion. Do something, do anything. It doesn't matter what it is. Call your senator. His videos are stupid, and he's just a token gun owner for the anti-rights movement, anti-gun rights people for CSGV. As a matter of fact, this video came from American Coalition for Responsible Gun Ownership, which I think he works somehow with or something. I don't know. And this happened in California, which has all of the gun laws and all the ideas. They've taken them and they've made them law. And still it happened. And it happened at Santa Barbara. And let's stop being coy, Mr. Carman, and everyone who's listening to me. If you're in the gun rights community, you know exactly what they want, because there's only one logical conclusion to all the rules they pass, all the laws they pass, and all of their rhetoric. And that is a complete prohibition and confiscation. That could be the only conclusion I can come to from his call to action. California has every law that you can possibly make without repealing the Second Amendment, confiscating guns from people, and melting them down into a big pile. So we know what he wants. I wish I could make the mass shooting stop. Gun owners don't want to see people get shot. We don't want to see it. It's not our position. As a matter of fact, a lot of us have guns to protect ourselves and our family members and our loved ones. And if we were put in a position where there was an active shooter scenario, you would find that most of us would react to save lives. But really, me personally, I would react to save my life. Especially in an anti-gun state like California, where you make it legally and fiscally treacherous to protect even yourself, much less protect anyone else with a firearm. So we know what Mr. Carman wants. We know what he's getting at. Even though he says he's a gun owner, even though he says that he owns guns and he doesn't want to see guns taken away, that's the only logical conclusion. The only way to stop mass shootings is to prohibit and confiscate. And we know that's the end game of the coalition to ban handguns, or the coalition to stop gun violence, as they're called now. Moms demand action. We know what their end position is. Their only logical end state is complete prohibition and confiscation. And we know that's not going to happen without a revolt. Which is why gun owners fight against the universal background checks, Because in order for universal background checks to work, you have to have a registration of every firearm and who owns it. And that's why we fight against it. So, San Bernardino, it sucks. And it may turn out that it is Islam. And if that's the case, then you know what? Fuck Islam as well. And if it turns out it was ISIS inspired, fuck ISIS as well. I'll go out on a limb and say that as well. I just don't know what more, especially the gun owners in California who are already under such draconian laws and rules for even down to how they store the firearm in their private residence. The government regulates that. So if that's the point California's at already, what more could they possibly want? San Bernardino, condolences to those people there, because having been at the Fort Hood shooting and having been in a community that has experienced a mass shooting where, by the way, the Dawson had handguns, killed 13, injured 34, handguns. And I kept hearing on the news today that they were saying, well, with as many casualties, it had to be long rifles with high capacity magazines. Not necessarily true. It's happened before at Fort Hood. I was there in 2009. And I know how a community suffers and the resilience it takes to recover from one of these events. And all I hope is the best for the people that were at that event. And, they can get help to help recover from the horrible thing that happened to them.